So welcome everyone to another episode of Off Limits. Our guest this time is Yogendra Yadav. He is speaking to us from the Bharat Jodo Yatra camp, and we will be having some connectivity issues, perhaps not. He's so well known, I don't really need to sort of introduce him. Yogendra ji is a psephologist, he's a well-known activist, he's a politician, and we are so happy that he's giving us some time to talk to us right from the middle of the yatra. Welcome, Yogendra.
Thank you. Delighted, Seema ji. Ever since Modi ji found a name for people like me, you don't need to introduce us anymore. All Andolan Jeevis. So in one word, he summed it up. That's what it is. And I can tell you that I'm here at District Kurnool. The Yatra has entered Andhra Pradesh this morning. So this is the fourth state. We began with Tamil Nadu. We've crossed Karnataka, Kerala, and then Karnataka. This is the fourth state we've entered. We'll be here in Andhra Pradesh for another 3 days. So this is District Kurnool, drought-prone area in the Rayalaseema region of Andhra Pradesh. And I'm speaking to you from there. And that's why we may have some connectivity issues. Because as you mentioned, I'm in the middle of the camp where we've had a day stop. And if you don't mind, I can show you where.
Yeah, please show us exactly what the camp looks like.
This is so you see, we start walking around 7 o'clock in the morning, and then we walk for 3 hours or so. And then there's a day rest because it's very hot. And this is the day rest camp. In case you thought there are some 5-star facilities, you can see this for yourself, what the camp is like. This is where everyone is resting, some on the cot, some on gaddas here, and trying to, escape the heat for the next 3-4 hours before we start walking again around 4 o'clock for 3 more hours.
Amazing, really amazing. So tell me, now let me start with you. I know that you have said this to others as well, and you've given of the Congress as it was and is. So what has made you change your mind? I know that you've said that somebody who goes onto the roads, you want to support them. But, that's very simplistic, isn't it?
Seema, you're absolutely right. I've never been a supporter of Congress. And to be absolutely honest, my entry into public life was the day I witnessed Mrs. Gandhi's defeat in 1977. For me, that was introduction to democracy on the street in 1977. Growing up in the 80s, you couldn't possibly be a friend of the Congress party. I've seen 1984 with my own eyes. And as an Indian, I continue to be, to this date, ashamed of what I saw with my own eyes. So yes, people like me have grown up opposing the Congress because Congress was the establishment of the country at that point.
Right.
But to carry that today in a very different situation would be utterly misplaced. What is the situation that we face, Seema, today? Forget long-term things. Just let's focus on what we have discovered in the last 24 hours.
Yes.
There's this woman who gets raped. People get murdered. These are not alleged rapists. These are rapists and murderers who were suddenly given remission and were released from jail. You and I kept debating, oh, there is a jail committee which has given this verdict. Jail committee has more BJP people and so on, but some people kept silent. So what have we discovered in the last 24 hours? That this was approved by Gujarat government. Gujarat government wrote to the Home Ministry, Mr. Amit Shah's office, which said, all right, this is such a good idea, go ahead. And that this was done despite the CBI's opposition and despite rejection from the CBI judge. Is this the country you want? Seema, the country you and I were born in doesn't look like the same country anymore. And if in a very different milieu, I've just given you one tiny instance. A week ago, a member of parliament says, boycott one community. We have so-called dharm sansads which are saying exterminate Muslims. What is happening to this country? And I have very simple, call it simplistic. But घर में अगर कोई आग लगे, मेरे घर में कोई आग लगाए, तो मुझे उस वक्त सिर्फ 2 पार्टी दिखाई देती हैं. एक वो जो कि पेट्रोल की बोतल लेके घूम रहा है, और एक वो जो पानी की बाल्टी लेके आया है.
So
The
that's
one
what
with a bucket of water is my friend, even if I did not speak to him for the last 10 years, even if his children and my children had a tiff over cricket ball yesterday. Today, he's holding a bucket of water. He's my friend. He's my country's friend. And if Rahul Gandhi is doing that today, he's my friend.
So, you know, we have this state in our country where there are many persons who are carrying this bucket of water, or they claim to be carrying this bucket of water. Some are from the states, some are not from the states. The Congress arguably was reduced to 2-3 states. It's not, I mean, it's a national party and yet not a national party, if you know what one is saying. But why Rahul Gandhi and why the Congress over all the others?
I'm glad you asked that, Seema, because we've made it absolutely clear. About 200 plus of us have given a statement as to why we are supporting this yatra. And we've clearly said we are not supporting a political party. We are not joining a leader. We are supporting one initiative as a one-time measure. And tomorrow, if any other political party or any other organization were to take up something as big as this, we would without hesitation support that.
Okay.
Let Mr. Stalin start something of that kind. I would be the first one to salute it. We have in any case so much to learn from Tamil Nadu these days. Let Mamata Di start it. Let anyone else start it. Let someone come with clean hands and start it. So it is not an attachment to one party or one leader. I want to make it absolutely clear. What the Congress has done at this time is very important. As still the largest party of this country in terms of votes after the BJP, Congress carries the first responsibility for responding to this situation. When they did not, I was angry, I was mad at them when they did not do this, take up this responsibility. And now that they are taking it up, it should be my duty to say, all right, now that you're doing it, I'm with you.
Okay, so, you know, for 8 years, we have found that there's been this canard against Rahul Gandhi. He's been pilloried, he's been hung, not just by the BJP, but by other opposition leaders who are allies of his or friends supposedly, and also from within the Congress. I mean, it's very true that even people from the Congress were happy about the kind of canard and the kind of vilification that was going on about him. What do you feel? And you know that word "papu," he meant that he doesn't think, he's not really well oriented. What do you feel that he's changed in Yatra? Do you see any kind of a change in the whole approach to politics? I know that the people talking doesn't matter.
Seema, it so happens that I've known Rahul now for about 15 years. First time I got to know him was in 2007-8, when he was just getting into, I mean, he was very much into politics. He was member of parliament even then. 2007, 8, 9, 10, I had very close, detailed discussions with Rahul Gandhi, which incidentally has been portrayed as my being the advisor to Rahul Gandhi. There was nothing of that sort, but I had spoken to him. So I know the person. And when I see the public image, I was quite disappointed. It was not my job to educate the public about who Rahul Gandhi is. After all, leaders should tell the country about who they are. But I was quite sad and disappointed because I had known a very different person. And just in case anyone thinks that I'm making it up today because I'm walking with him, let me simply pick 2 lines from my article in 2019, when I wrote that utterly damning thing about the Congress, where everyone picked up 3 words, Congress must die. In that article, I have said, and that's the only line about Rahul Gandhi, it says, Rahul Gandhi is more sincere than any politician I have met, and he's more intelligent than anyone thinks he is. That has been my assessment over the last 15 years. 2 or 3 things that I'm reasonably sure of, and which is the endearing part of him. There are weaknesses, and everyone knows here there are weaknesses that someone has to overcome. But the most endearing, to me, the thing that attracts most about him, and the reason why I could never attack him personally, is that his commitment to core constitutional values is so deep that comes from his guts, not just from his lips. Commitment to secularism, to social justice, and to economic equality. These are three core constitutional principles. This, for me, is my idea of India. His commitment to that is absolutely unquestionable. I've met many politicians in my life. I have met many who speak very high-sounding ideological vocabulary. But when I look at their eyes, I know they don't mean a word of what they are saying. Compared to that, if you speak to Rahul, I'm sure, which you must have, you can see that he means, I mean, and then when you have longish conversations, off record, casual conversations, you know what someone stands for and what someone does not stand for. So this commitment is absolutely pakka in him. He has much greater policy curiosity and interest than most politicians have. Most politicians have zero patience for any policy complication. Explain to them, after 1 minute, they are looking somewhere else, because they don't get it. Rahul takes interest. He's interested in this. The third thing that I've noticed about him over the years is that he has a sense of detachment to power, which is both a strength and a weakness. Because I almost wish, in today's context, I wish he had greater attachment to power, greater will to power, because that's what you need today. But that's what he has been. I've seen him over the 15 years. And what makes me somewhat happy now is that over the last 1 month, people have seen the Rahul Gandhi that everyone who knows him has always seen. So in that sense, it's good for him. For me, what's important is that it's good for the country. That's what matters to me.
Exactly. So when you say sincere, intelligent, that I think he's been from the beginning. It was unfortunate that he was called all kinds of names when he is a very intelligent, thirsty for knowledge kind of a person. But the other things that you've said, this love, this commitment, the passion, the interest in people, it's all now has been on display on a national scale or a global scale. Because of this yatra. Two things I want to say are the real worry. One is very simplistic, that he might, he seems like a part-time politician, right? He seems like a politician because of the lack of thirst of thing for power. He seems like somebody who can go away. Like after the yatra is over, he might disappear for a while. So that really does create some kind of break in the continuity of politics. What do you say about that? Then I'll ask you a bigger question.
That's a challenge. He has to demonstrate himself. As I said, I've never thought it's my job to carry his image to the rest of the country. So, I mean, I've always known these two things that you talk about today, but then it is, in public life, your image is what you are. So in a sense, it's your responsibility to make sure that people see you for who you are. What you mentioned is clearly a challenge. This is a widespread impression that has been spread very, very widely, very carefully, very diligently. Yeah, there's a lot of propaganda around it. And it is indeed a challenge for him to demonstrate. Yes, a lot of people, when the yatra began, a lot of people said, "Dekhna 10 din ke andar gaadi pe chad jayega, dekhna wo karega nahi." All kinds of, I said, let's see that. So fair enough, these are challenges, and I'm sure these are questions. These are very legitimate questions. These are questions not in the mind of just you and me. These are questions shared by crores of people in this country today. And it is for him to show, to demonstrate that he has a staying capacity. After all, you cannot take Mr. Modi and Mr. Shah on unless you are 24 into 7 into 365. That's the only way to take them on. So that's a challenge that he has to show, and a certain kind of determination, doggedness, tenacity. That is what this country wants to see.
Yeah, which he has. I mean, he's showing it in the yatra. 3,500 kilometers of walking is not an easy thing. Now, the second question.
Yeah, now it's 1,000 plus. Now we've done about 1,050. And walking it in all kinds of situations, rain, and this morning was very harsh sun as it can get in Rayalaseema. So yes, doing that is one part of determination, but people would also want to see, okay, 6 mahine baad kya hoga? 2 saal tikenge kya? These are questions, and I'm sure people of India deserve answers to these questions.
Right. I mean, in the sense that it can't be a one-off thing, but I'll come back to that. The other question that I wanted to ask you, given your own background, your socialist background, your own whole understanding of the play of big money, over these years has been very, very clear and very forceful in this attack on the corporation and on big money. Now, is that one of the reasons why it is taking, why the big money is staying away from him? I'm not talking of the two most richest men in this country, but I'm also talking of the whole corporate class. Is it that they are a little worried that he might not be with them?
Speaking to him, he said, the day media, I was the darling of media. And one day everything changed. What was that day? I didn't remember. I said, look, I don't remember. He said, it was the day I carried out that yatra to that Bhatta Parsol. You remember Bhatta Parsol visit of his, which was about land being captured by big builders and his protest against that. He said that was the day when media turned against me. And I don't know, I can't confirm. That's not what I don't obviously follow these things that closely. But if that is the case, that says a lot about this country. Just think of it, Seema. We have this, in the last 2.5 years, remember, the day lockdown began. After that, in the next 2 years, now we know from official surveys that 97% families of this country went down in their income and wealth. See Rahul Gandhi speak about it in every next speech of his. And what he says, which makes sense to me, he says, I'm not against corporate, I'm not against industrialization, I'm not against private capital. All I'm opposing is cronism.
This crony capitalism was something that we've been seeing for quite a while, where the media and the crony politician and the crony capitalist had formed that nexus quite a while ago. Maybe even from the time of globalization brought in by Rao, one I hadn't studied in that. So it's something that is really entrenched. So is it something that this alternate line that Rahul Gandhi keeps talking of, which is very attractive to a lot of people and a lot of young people who are joining him, is something that we will not be able to carry through? I mean, of course, I know it's too early to say all that, but it's a difficult thing. And it's one of the reasons why the corporates are shunning him, you would say, right? At the moment, they're not supporting him. Big power is not supporting him the way that he should.
There's a simpler reason why corporates are not supporting him, at least not publicly, not in any known way, and that is everyone is scared like hell. Who has the courage in this country? You give 1 lakh rupees to Congress party, 3 days later you would get a phone call. Who wants those phone calls? This is a dreadful regime, much worse than the Mrs. Indira Gandhi's emergency used to be. So there's, of course, one very simple reason, and I speak with some confidence, having spoken to some people who are in position of, who really matter in the corporate world. Everyone says, Baba, ye panga nahi lena. So that's one reason. The second could be that image of being old-style socialist. That is for Rahul to clarify. What he says is that, look, I'm not against private capital, I'm not against corporate, I'm simply saying no cronism, which is a position everyone can and must take. About old-style socialism, since I come from that breed, look, I think I find so much of debate so somewhat misplaced, because there are two things that we should take for granted. Number one, markets are here to stay. An economy minus markets would be a horrible economy. We saw that after the collapse of Soviet Union. We saw it during the Soviet Union. That was terrible. And the second thing is state regulation is here to stay. Minus state regulation, it will be complete anarchy, which we saw after the collapse of Soviet Union. So any future state in the 21st century will be a mix, which will be state-regulated markets. This is exactly what happens in the US of and our regulation. I mean, in the US, a small equivalent of a sessions judge in the US can ask Microsoft to be split into two. I mean, so what all that people like me are asking for is just sensible state regulation. And every study, every history shows that capitalism has never grown without proper state regulation. Cronism does not help even capitalism. It is not capitalism versus socialism. It is cronism versus, so we are speaking very much within a very limited frame.
Right. So, to go back to the yatra now, this is because it's really the talking point and it's slowly replacing other talking points you can see in the chattering classes also. And you find more and more people who are probably just drawing room entities wanting to go and join that yatra. It's the thing to do, It is becoming the thing to do, which is interesting in its own way. But what on earth is it a one-off thing? I mean, in the sense that 3,500 kilometers of bringing people together will end with no action, then it'll scatter everybody back into whatever little holes they've emerged from? Or is there a larger plan? Since you have Rahul Gandhi and the top leaderships here, do you sense that there is a larger plan that will lead to the revival of the Congress? Or is it going to be, 3,000 unique Kashmir, and now good, we've got a lot of good things. Rahul Gandhi's image is better, the Congress guys were a little infused for a while, and goodbye, back business as usual. I guess it's right.
Seema, it's a very good question, and maybe in your next episode you should get some congressperson to answer it. My answer would be fairly limited. My answer is, of course, that's a challenge Congress faces, and yes, that would be a big question. But you're right. I mean, people have started talking.
Yeah.
For me, Seema, if this yatra does 2 or 3 things, right, I would say this yatra has achieved its purpose, and none of them involves the Congress party.
Okay.
Number one, just breaking silence. There was such silence in this country. Everyone looks around before speaking. Everyone feels that they are alone. They are alone in their neighborhood. They are alone in their WhatsApp group. They are alone in their family circles. If this yatra ends up empowering that lone person into thinking, I'm not alone. The other day, I saw 20,000 people walk on the street. That, for me, is important. And Seema, feet on the street are important. If you look at history of democracy anywhere in the world, when it faces crisis,
absolutely,
when it faces smaller crisis, institutions can come, judiciary, other institutions can come to support. But when you have a life-threatening crisis for democracy, the only thing that matters in the last instance is feet on the ground. People on the street is what changes history. So therefore, if this yatra ends up giving a sense to so many people, millions of people in this country, I'm not alone. हाँ बोल सकते हैं, देखो तो लोग बोल रहे हैं ना. That's important for me. For me, this yatra would have served its purpose if just that one thing happened. कुछ तो होगा अगर मैं बोलूंगा. कुछ तो होगा अगर मैं बोलूंगा. न टूटे तिलिस्म सत्ता का, मेरे अंदर का एक कायल टूटेगा. If this is what this yatra achieves, for me, Seema, this has done the job. For me, I'm not in this yatra. Yes, Congress's revival matters. Yes, 2024 matters. And yes, for 2024, Congress is a very critical piece of that jigsaw puzzle that needs to be sorted out. But all that begins once you can give that moral courage to this country. Once ordinary people like me who feel that, no, this is not my civilization, this is not my Gandhi, this is not my Ambedkar, this is not my constitution. Once it empowers them to stand up, then votes follow, seats follow, elections follow, and even if they do not follow, this country has got its courage and voice back. That is why I'm in this yatra.
Right. I'm going to end with this because this really is summed up the gist of everything that we've spoken about. Thank you so much. Have a good time and we'll see you soon on the yatra. Take care.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you.